So hey guys, welcome to another episode. This is David with Geeks and Jocks, and today we're going to talk about the black portion of Zendikar Rising, the spoilers that have gone up to this moment. So let's dive right into it. And just as a reminder, we do want to hit 1,000 subscribers here at Geeks and Jocks. So if you want to comment, share, like, or subscribe yourself, if you haven't done so, that would be amazing. Without further ado, let's start with the black portion of Zendikar Rising. So at first we have Hagra Mauling and Hagra Brute Pit. Hagra Mauling is for 2 colorless and 2 black. It's an instant spell. It's a rare. This spell costs 1 less to cast if your opponent has no basic lands. Restore target creature. So basically, we have been seeing a lot of 3-color decks, and a lot of decks play only like 8. Basically 8 and below basics, sometimes even less. So this card might be a good spell because it doesn't have a restriction on the creature that can destroy. Some of the other cards have restrictions. The fact that it's an instant is good. It's a double-sided land. It taps for black, and it's a tap land. So yeah, at the beginning, if you don't see if the opponent doesn't have any creatures, that might be a good target for this card. I can see it playing the land side of it, and then late game you might just want to pay the 4 and just kill your opponent's creature. So I kind of like it. It's kind of high cost for killing just a creature, but it is an instant regardless. Then we have Skyclave Shadowcat. For 3 colors and a black, it's a cat horror. It's an uncommon. It has a colorless and a black. Sacrifice another creature. Put a +1/+1 counter on Skyclave Shadowcat. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter dies, draw a card. So this might be good in a Golgari scenario where a bunch of the cards just get +1/+1 counters. Also, Mono Black has a way to gain +1/+1 counters on their creatures. It is a 4-drop for 3/3. It's not that bad. It might see some play, maybe not in constructed, but definitely in a limited format, you can see some play. Then we have Drana Silencer. For 5 colorless and a black, it's a vampire rogue. It enters the battlefield. A creature opponent control gets -X/-X until the end of the turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party. It itself is a rogue, so worst case scenario is a -1/-1. But since it doesn't have flash, or it's not a combat trick, it's not that good. So it is a common though. So then we have Drana, the Last Blood Chief. For 3 colors and 2 black, it's a flying legendary creature, vampire cleric. It has flying. Whenever Drana, the Last Blood Chief, attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card from the graveyard. Return that card to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, and this creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. So your opponent chooses a non-legendary creature. However, if you do have great creatures, well then, or you only have 1 creature, then, they have to choose lesser of 2 evils. The fact that it gets something back whenever it attacks, it doesn't have to deal damage. It's good. It also has flying, has evasion, so you might be getting in there. Maybe get blocked by 1/1s or 2/2s, but still, it's a great card. Maybe it's gonna see some play for creatures that have ETB when they come back from graveyard. ETB, and they also get a +1/+1 counter. So yeah, maybe. Then we have Scourge of Skyclaves for colorless and a black. It's a creature demon. It's a mythic. It has a kicker 4 and a black. If this spell was kicked, each player loses half their life, rounded up. Scourge of the Skyclave power and toughness are each equal to 20 minus the highest life total amongst player. So, okay. So if they lose 10 life, it's a 10/10 for colorless and a black. Yeah, this card is oh, okay, no, it has to be kicked. So, best case scenario, there's a lot of shock lands out there. They go down to 15. It's a 5/5 for a colorless and a black. Might not be that bad. Late game, especially, you don't even have to kick it. It's gonna be good. So late game is good. Early game is not that good, but still, you know, they keep on losing life, your creature keeps on getting bigger. So if you have ways to like kind of like burn them without having to actually deal combat damage, this creature is going to get bigger every time. Then we have Coveted Price for a colorless, 4 colorless, and a black. It's a sorcery, it's a rare. Spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. So worst case scenario is going to cost you the 5. Best case scenario is going to cost you just 1 black. And if you have a full party, you search your library for a card, put it in your hand, shuffle library, and if you have a full party, like I said, you may cast a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So you get highly rewarded to having a full party, because it not only costs just 1 black, it also costs, you lets you play a spell for 4 or less. So maybe you tutor for something that is 4 or less and you can play it at the same time without paying its mana cost. So then we're moving on, because this card it's already here, so I think it's just not the showcase part of it. Then we have Inscription of Ruin for 2 colorless and a black. It's a sorcery, it's a rare. Kicker is for 2 colorless and 2 black. Choose one. If this spell was kicked, choose any number instead. So basically, if you kick it, you get the full all the effects. But if it's not kicked, it costs you 3. So you can do target opponents discards 2 cards. Return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Destroy target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. So it's not that bad, and you know, it doesn't tilt the game on your direction if you cast it for the full cost, because it's like it's gonna be at turn 7 or when you have 7 lands. Because the creature that you can bring back is cost 2 or less, and you only destroy one of their creatures, so it's not like destroy, if it was kicked, destroy all the creatures. So yeah, it's good, but it's not that good. It's good in the fact that it's flexible enough. Then we have Nighthawk Scavenger for colorless and 2 black. It's a vampire rogue. It has flying, death touch, and lifelink. Alright, so that sounds good. Its power is equal to 1 plus the number of cards type among the cards of your opponent's graveyard. So it says opponent. So in a commander environment, this can be very huge, very quick, because it card types. So it can get really up there really quick. The fact that it has lifelink, flying, and death touch makes it really desirable. Also adds up to your party mechanic. So yeah, I think this card is going to see some play, if not a lot of play. Then we have Soul Shatter for 2 colorless and a black. It's an instant card. It has, it's a rare. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest converted mana cost amongst creatures and planeswalkers they control. So that itself is a good card, because it's already going for the highest converted mana cost, which is in planeswalkers is going to be your... So it does have a lot of good targets, and I think this card is going to see a lot of play. Then we have Taborax Hope's Demise. It's a legendary creature, demon cleric. It's 2 colorless and a black. It's a rare. It has flying. It has lifelink as long as you have 5 or more +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever another non-tanking creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on it. If that creature was a cleric, you may draw a card. If you do, you lose 1 life. So it has to be a non-tanking creature, but there's already a lot of payouts for Rakdos Sacrifice. So there's a lot of cards that are going to get replaced. And this is a good card. I think in Rakdos Sacrifice is going to see some, if not a lot of play. The fact that it has flying, it has, like I said, it has evasion, it gains lifelink, but it gains counters as well. So there's a lot of synergy there. Then we have Acquisitions Expert for colorless and a black. It's a human rogue. When it enters the battlefield, opponent reveals a number of cards from their hand equal to the number of creatures on your party. You choose one of those cards and the player discards that card. Worst case scenario, they reveal 1 and that player discards that card. Doesn't say that there has to be non-land. So, you know, you may be even taking some of the resources at turn 2. so that might be good. It's a power 1 and toughness is 2. It's not that bad. It doesn't have evasion, doesn't have fly or menace, but still the fact that it comes in and it works similar to a just a discarding effect, because honestly they're going to show you the worst card they have, so they're choosing basically. Those type of cards are never that good when your opponent gets to choose. However, you're putting a threat, however big it is, and you know they are losing a card, so at turn 2 it may take away some resources. Black Bloom Rogue and Black Bloom Bog. It's a double-sided land. So it's a human rogue and it has menace. There you go. It gets +3/+0 as long as your opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard. So it pays out in type of mill type decks or in late game. In late game, it's a 5/3, so it's not that bad. It also has menace, so it's a 4-turn clock if your opponent doesn't have a lot of threats, a lot of creatures in the board. So it's not that bad. And the other side is just a land that has for black. So worst case scenario, early game you put it as a land. Best case scenario, late game it's already at 5/3 with menace, so it's not that bad. Then you have Blood Chief's Thirst for a black sorcery. It's an uncommon. It's a kicker 2 and a black. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana 2 or less. And if this spell was kicked, instead destroy target creature or planeswalker. So at 4, it at late game it deals with the big threats, and at early game it deals with the smaller and more aggressive threats. So I like it. This card it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be good because it has flexibility. It deals with stuff. Obviously, there's not a lot of planeswalkers at 2 CMC. However, the fact that you pay 4 and you get to destroy or choose the planeswalker, that's really good. Then we have Demon's Disciple for 2 colors and a black. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. So it's a human cleric. It's a 3/1. So yeah, it's good because you move your game along and they lose. So yeah, it's a good card. Then we have Lightform Blight for a colorless and a black. It's an enchantment aura. When enchanted land, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and it loses all the land types and other abilities. But it has add a colorless and pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color. So the fact that you're paying life as a resource, I like it. You're not losing, like filtering any colors. So the fact that it replaces itself is really good as well. So I really like this card. It's gonna see some play in some colors that splash 3 colors. For that 3rd color, this card is really good because, like I said, it replaces itself, and the fact that you can pay life as a resource, that's really good. It's always good when you can do that. Then we have Malakir Rebirth and Malakir Mire. It's a double-sided land. It's an instant and it's a uncommon. Choose target creature. You lose 2 life until the end of turn. That creature gains when this creature dies. Return it to a battlefield. Tap under owner's control. So basically, you're preventing your creature from dying. It's kind of like bringing it back. However, it triggers the ETB. You do lose 2 life. But you can trade with a bigger creature or trade as equal, tough attack and toughness. And the fact that you can bring it back, it's really good because a lot of creatures have ETB, so that's really good. And the land side is just that for black. Then we have Mind Carver for a black. It's an artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. The creature gets +1/+0. If it gets +3/+1. Instead, as long as your opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard. So obviously, and to equip, it costs 2 colorless and a black. So obviously, more for the mill decks. It makes them more flexible. I wouldn't play this card in mill, but it's not that bad. I guess in limited format, it makes your creature like super big. Then we have Pelakka Predation and Pelakka Caverns. It's a double-sided land. It's a sorcery in a uncommon. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a card from it with converted mana cost 3 or greater. That player discards this card. And on the other side, it's just a land. I like it. I like it a lot because the fact that you can play late game and your opponent is gonna have bigger threats, because they get stuck by turn three. By turn three, you can play it. Yeah, I like it a lot because they haven't played their turn three or their fourth land yet. So yeah, you can hit a lot of stuff. Then we have Shadow Stinger for 2 colorless and a black. It's a vampire rogue, so that adds to the party mechanic. Tap another untapped rogue you control. Shadow Stinger gains death touch at the end of the turn. Whenever it deals damage to a player, combat damage to a player, that player mills 3 cards. It's not that good. Honestly, it's not. The fact that you have to have another creature for it to be gain death touch and doesn't get like evasion or like this creature can be blocked or something, that's not that good. So let's just move along. And then we have Thwart the Grave. Thwart the Grave. For 4 colorless and 2 black, it's a sorcery, an uncommon. It costs 1 less, let me guess, for each one of your party. Yeah, for each one of your party costs 1 less. So base case scenario, it's going to cost you 2 black. Realistic scenario, it's probably going to cost you 3 colorless and 2 black, or just the 4 colorless and 2 black. Return target creature card and up to 1 target cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this would have been better at cost or something, but it is not a good card at all. Then we have Soft Consumption and Soft Bloodbog. It's a double-sided land. On one side is the land, and the other side, each opponent loses 4 life and you gain 4 life. So no, it's too high of a cost at that point in time. It might be a finisher, but I don't think so. There's a lot of cards though that punish your opponent for you gaining life, so it can be a win more kind of card. Then we have Blood Beaconing for a black. It's a sorcery. It's a common. It's a kicker of 3. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And if this spell was kicked, instead return 2 target creature cards from the graveyard to your hand. So it only returns them to your hand, but it's not that bad. Best case scenario, you pay 1, you return a creature, and then you play it. Worst case scenario, you spend 4 mana, you get 2 creatures back, but it is what it is. It's not that bad. Then we have Deadly Alliance. 4 colorless and a black. It's an instant. It costs 1 less for each one of your party. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. So, that was not that bad actually, because it doesn't have any restrictions of the creature or the planeswalker, and it can maybe it can cost you less. Then we have Dreadworm for 4 colorless and a black. It's a worm horror for it's a common. Whenever a land enters your battlefield under your control, it gains indestructible to the end of the turn. It's a 5/4. In very limited in a limited format, is a good card, and anything else it's not that good. Then we have Expedition Skulker. It's a colorless and a black. It's a vampire rogue. It has death touch as long as you control another rogue. So it's not bad. It's a bear. And the fact that it can gain death touch as long as you control another rogue, that's not that bad. Then we have Freed Swarm for colorless and a black. Oh, yeah. The sorcery, a common. The start target creature or enchantment your opponent controls. Yeah, that's a really good card. Because the fact that black never had a destroy enchantment, that's a really good card. And the cost is right there. This card is going to see a lot of play in a lot of sideboards. Then we have Gul'Thras Mucklord for 2 colorless and a black. Is a crocodile. When it dies, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It has power, toughness 2 and 3. It's not that bad. You can block something and then make something else bigger. So it's not that bad. It's a common card, so it's not that bad. Then we have Hagra Constrictor for 2 colors and a black. It enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has menace. That's really good. That's a really good card. That's what you want to be doing. Would have been better at 2. However, you can't complain. It comes in at 2/2, and creatures with +1/+1 counters gain menace, so it's not bad at all. Then you have a Highborn Vampire for 3 colorless and a black. It's a vampire warrior, so it adds up to the party mechanic. It's a 4/3. No, it's not good. It doesn't have any abilities, and no, it's not a good card. Then we have Malakir Blood Priest for a colorless and a black. It's a vampire cleric. It's a common. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, and you get an X life, where X is the number of creatures in your party. So it itself is a part of your party. So best case scenario, they lose 4, you gain 4. Worst case scenario, they lose 1, you gain 1, and you also have a body on it. It's not that bad. Like I said, there's a lot of creatures that highly reward you if you gain life, making your opponent lose life. So it's not that bad. Then we have Mind Drain for 2 colorless and a black. It's a sorcery. It's a colorless. It's a common. Target opponent discards 2 cards, mills a card, and loses 1 life. You gain 1 life. So this card is doing a lot. This card is doing a lot because they discard 2 cards, they mill a card, and they lose a life, and you gain a life. Yeah, this is flexible enough, especially in a limited format. This is going to help you progress your game a lot. Then we have Nimana Skitter Sneak. For 3 colors and a black, it's a human rogue. It's a common. As long as your opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard, it gets +1/+0, and it has menace. So yeah, I mean, you're going to be playing a late game anyways because it's a 4-drop. So yeah, this is like probably a limited bomb, maybe. Because the fact that it has menace and it's a 4/4 if they have 8 or more cards in the graveyard. So yeah, this card is really good, especially in limited. Then we have Oblivion's Hunger. For a colorless and a black, it's an instant, it's a common. Target creature you control gets indestructible until the end of the turn, and that card, if it's target creature you control gets indestructible until the end of the turn. Draw a card if that creature has a +1/+1 counter on it. So it replaces itself if you choose a creature that already has a +1/+1 counter on it. The fact that it's a combat trick, it's really good because it gets indestructible and you may be able to kill another creature. In limited, it's going to be really, it's going to be there, I think. And maybe it's going to see some play in mono black decks. It gives it another thing to do. Then we have Subtle Strike. For colorless and a black, it's an instant. You choose one or both. Target creature gets -1/-1 until the end of the turn. And you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Yeah. The fact that they can go -1 and you can go +1, giving it a 2 difference on a whenever you're battling another creature. So that will get your creature to probably survive and theirs not. So they just attacked into killing their own creatures. So I really like this card. And then the rest is just showcase promos and full art promos. And just a reminder, this is it for the black portion of it. And just a reminder, we are trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. So if you want to like, comment, share this video, it will be highly appreciated. If you want to subscribe yourself, that will be amazing as well. So this concludes the black portion of it. And just stay tuned for the other episodes that show you all the other colors that we have already done for Zendikar Rising. Thank you so much. Just a reminder, this was brought to you by Dex and by Game Inc. Links in the description of the video. And without further ado, that's it for today's video. And thank you for sticking along. And we'll see you in the next one.